So to start off, here's a time travel story called Crime of the Century. The noise was getting louder, as well as the sound of shovels and drills. You could hear people talking. We had all that we could carry in our backpacks and had managed to close up the safety deposit boxes, so it now looked like we'd never been here. "Where are you, Roger?" called Steph. Roger was our getaway man. Without him we were stuck in the bank vault. We would be at the mercy of the approaching tunnellers, and we didn't want to have to explain ourselves to them when they arrived. Based on what we knew, they had a reputation for short tempers when it came to competition. Roger wandered around the corner, clutching a small package. "Look what I found," he said. "More diamonds." "Never mind them," said Steph. "Just get your contraption fired up and get us out of here." "OK," he said, pulling the innocent-looking box from his pocket. "Goodbye 2015, 2127, here we come." It had been Roger's idea. When he said he wanted to test his time machine, we'd assumed we'd go to some great historical event. Not Roger. "I don't want to risk changing history," he said. "That would be crazy." "So what will we do then?" asked Steph. "We'll go to a bank vault just before a crime and pinch the stuff before they arrive," he suggested. He threw me an old newspaper. A gang had tunnelled into a vault over a holiday and emptied some of the deposit boxes. Nobody knew what they'd taken. The theory was that a lot of it was things that couldn't be reported missing. "We'll just take some of it," he said. "The gang will get the blame for it all." It sounded like a genius plan. It had taken longer to set up than we had expected, but now we were here. We held hands and stood on the chalk mark he had made when we arrived. He scuffed it out with his foot as he pushed buttons. In front of us I saw a small hole appear in the wall and heard a triumphant cry. The scene dissolved, to be replaced by the sight of a dark alleyway. Ahead I could hear the noises of a busy city. Roger looked at the box. 200 yards east," he said. "Down here. Let's go." Still holding hands, we set off down the alley. It looked like we got away with it, so far. Nobody in 2127 knew or cared what we had just done back in 2015, or that we had come from 2025 to do it. As we reached the end of the alley, we saw the world of the future, which was really weird. The roads and some of the buildings were familiar. What wasn't familiar were the trappings of society. There were wheelless cars noiselessly floating along, or secured to posts and bobbing gently in the breeze. Drones buzzed about. The pedestrians were dressed in the same strange garments that Roger had given us before we set off. There were large billboards with three-dimensional advertising. I wanted to stop and ask someone what life in the future was like, but Roger had insisted we talk to no one. "We can't attract attention," he'd said, "and we won't be here long, just long enough to move from one place to another." That was the only fault with Roger's time machine. It might have changed the date, but it left you at the same location in your new time. You had to be careful when you travelled, or you could end up in an awkward situation, as we had found when we were planning the route. To get to the place that became the vault with everything we needed, but without ending up inside a wall or in a crowd of people, required several leaps and costume changes, as we zigzagged through the ages and the city changed around us. Getting back was going to be a little easier. We had less to do. "We have to blend in at all times," Roger had said. "Look like we belong in the here and now." He had been to this time before, so we followed his lead. We waited for the traffic to stop before we tried to cross the road. The lights changed and the surface of the road in front of us lit up, with green arrows pointing in both directions. People hurried across. Once we were on the other side, Roger looked at the screen again. "Down here," he said. We followed him as we wove between the buildings. We finally turned into a small courtyard that I recognised. This was the car park where we worked, in our own time. Ahead of us should have been our offices. Instead, there was a building site. At this time of day, the place was deserted. "It's in the bushes," said Roger. "Follow me." We headed into the undergrowth and found another mark on the ground, secluded from any workmen. The bundles of clothes were where we had left them. We quickly got changed. Back in our familiar jeans and t-shirts, we no longer looked like we were fugitives from a bad taste party. "Last jump," Roger said, standing on the mark and fiddling with the box. "Then we'll be home. We can relax and start to enjoy our reward." He must have set the time wrong for the jump, but we didn't know that at first. When we arrived in 2025 and stepped out of the small copse of immature foliage, we could see his jeep in the car park in front of the office block. Quickly we went over to it and dumped all our clothes and the loot inside. As we walked towards the steps leading up to our building, 2 people came out. We stopped and stared. This was all wrong. We had met them before, a week ago. They were government agents. They had heard we were building a time machine. We'd laughed and told them it was rubbish. Roger claimed that it was our competitors trying to stir up trouble and ruin our reputation. All 5 of us did a double take. "How did you do that?" asked one of the agents. "We just left you in your offices on the 3rd floor. Now you're walking across the car park." "We came down the back stairs," said Roger. "I supposed you changed your clothes on the way too," said the 2nd agent. I hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you soon.